Okay, after going through the law of sines in the last lesson, today we're going to take a look at the law of cosines. And the law of cosines is going to be found in, or going to be needed to be used in certain cases, but not all, to solve triangles. The key thing that you have to have in order to use the law of cosines is you have to have two sides with the angle in between the included angle in order to use the law of cosines. Otherwise, you're going to want to use the law of sines. Or you need to know all three sides of the triangle and try to sort back through from that as well. Once you get past finding the first missing piece, in other words, the missing side that you have using the law of cosines, from that point forward, then you can use the law of sines to finish off solving the triangle. In other words, all you have to make sure that you do is find one side. In this case, we're finding B. We know the two sides with the angle that's included. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to find b squared, and that is going to equal the two sides that we know, 11 squared plus 14 squared, minus 2 times 11 times 14 times the cosine of the angle that we know in this case, which is 34. Now, this problem is one that I'm going to work through really much, or a lot, using longhand. Okay, because it is a problem where there are a lot of different places that you can make careless math mistakes. Okay, when I take 2 times 11 times 14, that is going to give me 308. And that's going to be multiplied by the cosine of 34. But one of the nice parts about the calculators that we use is that we can take that all in one shot now. 121 plus 196 minus 308 times the cosine of 34. And because of order of operations, that will give us our value for b squared. And b squared is going to equal 61 point, essentially 66. Okay? Now, what we're going to do then is we're going to take the square root. And because we're working through this problem with the calculator, we're going to take the square root and hit second negative again to pull your answer back from the previous portion of the problem. And that is going to tell us that b is going to come out to be 7.85. Now, once you know that value for b, then you can go back and use the law of sines in order to find the missing pieces of your triangle. Okay, so it's something that's going to be used temporarily to find your problem. Okay, here's another example. Okay, x is across from 37, so we're going to let x squared equal 23 squared plus 28 squared minus 2 times 23 times 28 times the cosine of 37. Okay, again, 23 squared is 529. 28 squared is 784. And when I subtract 2 times 23 times 28, that's going to give me 1288. And our calculators will do all that work for us. Okay, so we're going to plug our numbers in to our calculator. And that is going to let x squared equal approximately 284.36. Now again, we're going to take the square root. And since we're using the calculator, we're going to pull back our previous answer. So we're going to hit second x squared and then second negative on our calculator. And we'll take the square root of 284.3574631. And that will come out to be 16.86. Now, if a problem asks you to go ahead and find all the sides of the triangle, you've already done that, so you can now use the law of sines in order to find your missing pieces. The question that a lot of you are going to ask is, when do you want to use the law of sines versus the law of cosines? Okay, when you have a side across from one of your angles, you want to use the law of sines. So in number 1, because this s is across from the a, you want to use the law of sines. Okay, if this angle is in between the two sides that you know, okay, you want to use the law of cosines for that one. Okay, because it's the included angle. If you don't know any of your angles, okay, you want to use the law of cosines for that also. Okay, because you can use the inverse cosine key at the end to find the missing angle measure. In our last two examples, for number 5, you can see that the s is across from the a, so you want to use the law of sines on that one. And here we can calculate, for number 4, you can calculate your remaining angle from 180 degrees, so you'll use the law of sines on that one. The law of cosines you only want to use to find one missing part. Once you get past that, it's back to using law of sines because it's a little bit easier for you to use. Okay, here's another example. Okay, our two sides are here. We have the angle included between them. So x squared is going to equal 15 squared plus 17 squared minus 2 times 15 times 17 times the cosine of 62. Okay, 15 squared is 225. 17 squared is 289. And when I take 2 times 15 times 17, that gives me 510. So I'm going to type that into the calculator to find out what my value for x squared is. And again, the calculator, because it does sort through order of operations, will do the work for you. Okay, 225 plus 289 minus 510 times the cosine of 62 comes out to be 274.57. And again, because we're using the calculator, you're going to take the square root of the previous answer. Okay, so we take the square root of the 274.57. That comes out to be 16.57. The key thing that I want to make sure that you do not do, I want you to understand that this is one number itself. Do not try to take 225 plus 289 minus 510. That 510 is being multiplied by the cosine of 62. Okay, you've got to make sure that you type that all in one long stretch on your calculator in order to come up with your answer. Okay, here are two more examples. Okay, for the first one, I'm going to find little b. Okay, so b squared is going to equal 43 squared plus 45 squared minus 2 times 45 times 43 times the cosine of 88. Okay, and again, we're going to plug those directly in. Okay, 43 squared is 1849. 45 squared, 2025. And when I take 2 times 45 times 43, I've got 3870. So again, we're going to type it directly into the calculator, 1849, 2025, minus 3870 times the cosine of 88. Okay, the order of operations, we'll do the 3870 times the cosine of 88 first. And that's going to let b squared equal 3738.94. I'm going to take the square root of that answer. And that is going to let b be approximately 61.15. Our last example, okay, we're going to find a. Okay, so a squared is going to equal 23 squared plus 26 squared minus 2 times 23 times 26 times the cosine of 114. Okay, 23 squared is 529. 26 squared is 676. When I take 2 times 23 times 26, that's going to give me 1196 times the cosine of 114. Again, we're going to plug it all into the calculator. Calculator will again do the order of operations for us. Okay, and that's going to let a squared be about 1691.46. And we'll take the square root of that. And again, we'll just recall the answer from the calculator. So when I go back and recall, I get 41.13. Okay, at this point, we'll go ahead and stop the presentation. Again, it's just going to be using a formula for the law of cosines the whole way through. And you can start the homework on the worksheet 12.6.